My name is Austin Thompson. I want to say big up to Sparkle Bees and Sparkle, my Sparkle family, for giving us this space to host this very important meeting. Big up to Christine Newton and her team of Caribbean Association of Georgia. We have a lot of Caribbean organizations. I'm trying to figure out which one, Caribbean Association of Georgia, or CAG, for, just continuing the important work that you all are doing in not just the Caribbean American community, but in the Metro Atlanta area, right? Because what we do as Caribbean people, we do it for everybody, right? And for those who are also, stakeholders, I should say, in the development of Caribbean culture and what we do as Caribbean people and the important initiatives that we roll out as a Caribbean community. So congratulations to CAG, Christine, Camille Fitzsimmons, with whom I've worked several times on different initiatives. She's asked me to help come out and speak or perform whatever it is I need to perform, play Santa at Christmas time. That's always the highlight of my involvement with CAG. It's because you work with the kids. You work with the kids, right? And I like to do anything that. So I'm here to talk about elections, really important. Something that I know a little about, being an elected official and being an elected city councilman for the city of Lawrenceville. Last year serving as deputy mayor for the city and 2023. But my council term continues up until 2025, and then again, I will post for re-election. But with any election cycle, regardless if it's on the federal level, if it's on the state, if it's on the county level, the municipal level, whether you're voting for judges, whether you're voting for any person seeking an elected office, council members, right? Elections are important. And I can't emphasize that enough because we need representation, right? Everybody who believes that, say yes, we do. Yeah. Yes, we do. Right? We need representation. We pay taxes. We pay taxes to the federal government. We pay taxes to the county. We pay taxes in the municipality where we reside, right? As private citizens or as business owners, we pay taxes, right? So we need representation, right? We need to participate in a representative democracy that represents us, right? In a representative democracy, we cast our votes for those who will be elected to represent us, right? In an election that's supposed to be free and fair, right? So that we have that representation. So for people like me, I look forward to my constituents, or anyone who has an interest in the city of Lawrenceville, whether they are a resident or they're doing business in Lawrenceville, to contact me via phone, text, email messages. Hey, Councilman Thompson, I have an issue. Hey, Councilman Thompson, I have a concern. Hey, Councilman Thompson, I love to do business in the city of Lawrenceville. Can you help me understand what it is I need to do to qualify as a business owner for the city of Lawrenceville, right? On the local level, and this is what Sion said earlier, local elections are very important, very important. Everybody's focused on the presidential election, right? Everybody's focused on what happens at the federal level, right? U.S. Senate, Congress, U.S. House of Representatives, the presidential elections. But what about local elections, judges who play an integral role, right? Our solicitor generals, our DAs, district attorneys, our county commissioners, right? On the local level, because on the local level is where it impacts you most, right? For instance, in my city, I have people that call me when they have issue with stormwater drainage, they have issue with street lights, when they have issue with anything that, it's in respect of infrastructure, local taxes, business owners have any concerns about their spaces in which they do business. So I represent them, right? I don't just represent those who vote for me. I represent everybody in my city. And I try to let everybody know, right? There are about 35,000 residents within the city limits of Lawrenceville. I just don't represent 10,000. I don't represent 50,000. I don't cherry pick who I represent. And we as public servants, we are held to that. We are held to that standard that we should represent everyone who is within our jurisdiction, right? So as a city councilman for the city of Lawrenceville, I really enjoy looking out for, those who are within the city. So with that said, this is the election year. It's a major election year, right? It's not just the election of local officials, but also with our federal representatives on the federal level, right? And I just want to run through a few dates because it's really important for us to understand, what's coming up, where we go to vote, on what dates we have to register to vote, what are the primaries, when are the general election dates, right? So this year, we have the general election, we have primary elections, right? The primary elections is when a party nominates, when you go and vote, and you go and vote for the person who will represent the party in the general election, right? So that's why they call it the primaries, right? Those are significant because we want to make sure that we are electing in the primaries the individual who we deem is most qualified to represent the party. Right? In each party, the election that's registered in the election, Democratic, Republican, so on and so forth. Right? We go and we elect that individual who will represent us in the general election. Right? So you have your primary dates, then you have runoff dates. Every candidate is held to reaching 51% of the vote, right? Or we say 50 plus 1. So you got to get a majority vote. If any one candidate does not reach that 51% in the primary, it goes into a runoff. Same thing in the general, right? That's why sometimes when you see like 8 people running for a position, it's like, oh, I don't think we're going to have one individual reaching 51%, right? Because you got to split all those votes among 8 people, right? Then you go into the runoff, and it's majority, right? So on the 21st of May, right, this is important. On the 21st of May is when we're having our primary elections, right? That's for anyone who is qualified and has met the qualifications to run for office, right? In the primary elections, May 21st. Now, here's the thing that we must understand. For those running in positions to acquire a seat as a judge, their election, there's no primary judges, there's no primary, there's no general election. They have an election date, and that's May 21st, right? So on May 21st, whoever is elected to the judge's seat, that's it, right? They will be the judge, right? Now, unless there's a runoff, they have a runoff date, and I think it's June 18th, right? But the judges don't go on to November, right? They're elected in May.
So if you don't like your judge, you need to go out and vote.
You need to go out and vote.
Okay.
All right, you need to go out and vote. Now, the primary voting dates. Now, the primary election date is May 21st, but then you have early voting, right? You can start voting early. And I always advocate for early voting because it's a great way to get the voting out the way so you don't have to endure any possible long lines on election day, right? So the primary dates are April 29th to May 17th, right? And there are some Saturday dates and Sunday dates included in running for office, for voting, during primary dates, right? There's Saturday and Sunday dates, right? I'm going to give you, in a minute, I'm going to give you the website. You can go and get all that information, right? The primary voter registration deadline, if you're going to vote in the primary, the deadline is April 22nd, okay? So, I know it's being recorded, but also I'm going to give you the website, and you can always Google this information as well. This information is public, it's out there, and you know, we want to make sure that everybody is apprised of all the dates, you know, for voting. Now, the general election date is November 5th, right? That is the date. If the candidate wins the primary, gets past the primary, then he or she will go on to the general election to represent the party on both sides, right? Now, the general election voter registration deadline is October 7th, right? So you have voter registration deadlines for the primaries, and then you have voter registration deadlines for the general, okay? So when you register to vote for the primaries, you also have to make sure that you're also registered to vote for the general, right? Now, the other thing I want to state that there's a website on the Secretary of State's website. There's a link on the Secretary of State's website. It's called My Voter Page, right? And it's MVP for My Voter Page .sos for Secretary of State va.gov. Now, you want to know everything about elections, you go to that site, right? And I'll tell you what you can find out on that site. Because I make sure that I wrote it out, but sometimes when you're speaking, sometimes you might forget a point here or there. So I want to make sure I give everything out, right? So on the My Voter page, you can register to vote. You can register to vote on the My Voter page, right?
Online?
You do it online,
Oh.
right? You can register online, right? You check your voter registration status as well, right? The mail-in application and ballot status, you can check that on the My Voter page as well, right? Your poll locations, and I know people get confused sometimes because where you go and vote for your general, for a major election year is not where you go and vote for municipal elections, right? Now, every city is different, but to not have that confusion, always go to the My Voter page to check your polling location. They're asking for your first name, your last name, and whatever other information. Once you get access through that link, you'll go on and be able to determine now where your polling location is. It could be at a church, it could be at the voter registration and elections building here on Grayson Highway, 455 Grayson, and you have other locations around Gwinnett County and around the state of Georgia, right?
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is it the voting close-off different for every county? And the reason I'm asking that, I went to Creighton County and I remember seeing something about March 12th as a deadline for something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And this is why I thought of, informing people about voting. But is each county different for whatever is going on for the midterm?
No, well, in terms of candidates, yes. There's something that's called a presidential, it's a presidential something election, but that's just for the parties electing its representative, right?
Okay, that's
to represent them in the election, right? But the primary dates that I mentioned, like the May 21st, the early voting, election day, those are the dates that we really have to pay attention to, right? And again, early voting locations, election candidates, who are the candidates running, right? What are they? And then you can go from that to the actual website for each candidate to determine what's their platform. You know, what are they representing, right? Do they match the the interests and concerns of you voting, right? This way you get a good way to educate yourself on who's running. Registration on file, all sample ballots, you can check that, and the provisional ballot status. Now, provisional ballot, let's say for instance, if you go to a polling station. You're registered to vote. You know you're registered to vote. You might not know if that's the correct polling station or not, but you're not registered to vote from that particular polling station, right? What they'll do, they'll give you a provisional ballot, and they'll allow you to cast your vote. But at the end of the voting process, they will check to see if you are actually registered to vote, right? And if you are actually registered to vote, then your vote will count. If you're not registered to vote, then they will not include your ballot, right? So that's a good way of checking that. So you can also check that here. Now, the qualifications and requirements must be a U.S. citizen. Right? Be a U.S. citizen to vote, all right?
So I can't have a green card.
Yeah.
I can't have a Visa card, a green card.
I got a U.S. citizen. And this is why we do our immigration work in the community, right? This is why we bring our community in front of our immigration attorneys, because the opportunities we have in this country as U.S. citizens are bountiful.
I can't be a refugee.
You can't be a refugee.
Okay.
Because you might not, I'm just saying,
I'm just asking. People want to know.
Yeah, people want to know, but you can't be a refugee. You got to be a U.S. citizen.
I can't swim from
No.
Oh, okay.
Formally, but you got to apply for your citizenship. That's how it works. Yeah. You want to tunnel your way through Central America and into the U.S. Eventually, you got to have your U.S. citizenship.
The council also they can do that they could vote if they have expired right. They have an expired green card. Once it has their name,
I don't know about the green card. I know about the driver's license, right? You definitely have to have a valid driver's license. Now, this is why I say you go to the MyVoter page and check and make sure, because the ID, Georgia State's ID or driver's license valid has to be valid. Just like you got to be a U.S. citizen, right? You got to be a U.S. citizen. And of course, 17 and a half years of age to register, but 18 years of age to vote, right? So when you go to the MyVote page that I just gave you the link to, you can go there and you can find out any information, right? Like I said, this information is online. And you can go there and you can find out every information you need to know about voting. And it's important. And I tell people, because even as a city councilman, right? I speak to so many people in the community, and they have so many different challenges, right? Residents, but they don't come to city council meetings, right? I've encountered people who say, "Oh, I don't vote because I don't believe in the voting system, and I can't trust politicians," and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But then these are the same people that have issues, right? These are the same people that, hey, I got concerns, I got issues, who I need to go talk to. But you have to participate in the electoral process. Because the only way you talk about representative democracy, representation is important. As a citizen and as a voter, you have access. So you should have access. I'm open. Many of you see me on social media. I am accessible. I am accessible. Your elected official should be accessible to you, right? Because you hire them. When you elect someone into office, you're actually hiring them. So that person is working on your behalf. You can hire them and you can fire them by not voting for them, right? Honorable Donald McLeod can attest to that, right? So hold your elected officials accountable, right? Hold them accountable. Play a crucial role in the process by holding your elected officials accountable, asking questions. Attend city council meetings, attend your county meetings, but make sure you get to the polls the dates that I stated, vote in the primaries, and again, they are Saturday and Sunday dates where the polls are open, but you got to get that information, check for that information, make sure you're at the right polling station, right? And again, just make sure you contact the voter registration office, make sure you get online and check for that information, just to make sure that you have all the information you need to be an educated voter, an informed voter.